The chairman of the USCCB's Pro-Life Activities Committee is directly addressing criticism that the U.S. bishops are compromising on the abortion issue by encouraging Catholics to receive the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines, even though aborted fetal cell lines were used in their testing stage. He's also encouraging Catholics to make their voices heard.
If we do use them, we are even more obligated to raise objection to pharmaceutical companies and the government to give us ethical vaccines and not to keep resorting to these old aborted fetal cell lines.
EWTN Pro-Life Weekly host and managing editor Catherine Hadro spoke yesterday with Archbishop Joseph Naumann of Kansas City to address many of the ethical questions on the minds of the faithful. And Catherine Hadro joins me now with more from that conversation. Catherine, good to speak with you. Thanks so much for coming on. So tell me, what exactly prompted this special report?
Yes, Tracy, thanks for having me. Well, last week, the U.S. bishops issued a 7-page statement about the COVID-19 vaccines and ethical concerns. And just to summarize that statement for our viewers, it did condemn the use of aborted fetal cells at any stage in vaccine development and asked Catholics, if possible, to distance themselves from the AstraZeneca vaccine because we know that aborted cells were used in that vaccine's production. But it did ultimately, as you mentioned earlier, encourage Catholics to receive the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines because aborted cells were not used in those vaccines' productions, but they were used in the testing phase. And that, Tracy, is what prompted a Catholic outcry. A lot of Catholics voicing they felt like the U.S. bishops really compromised on the life issue. They felt like the U.S. bishops could have been protesting this more and voiced a lot of confusion and concern. And so that's why, for the first time ever, we issued this EWTN Pro-Life Weekly special report. It's online because we did not want to wait until January in our next show to address this important and urgent issue. So yesterday, as you said, I spoke directly with Archbishop Joseph Naumann. He is the chair of the U.S. Bishops Pro-Life Committee. His signature was on that COVID statement. And to his credit, Tracy, he directly addressed some tough questions and criticism and confusion that Catholics are asking right now.
Yeah, and Catherine, I know that you spoke with Archbishop Naumann really at length. What stood out the most to you, and what do you consider to be the most clarifying point?
Well, first, I would encourage viewers to watch that it's a 16-minute interview, and I would encourage viewers to watch that entire interview because I think all the context with the questions and answers are really important here. But to that point, there were a few points that stood out to me that Archbishop Naumann addressed. He clarified what the U.S. Bishop statement meant in regards to a remote connection to abortion, a remote cooperation with abortion, and how that applies to receiving a COVID-19 vaccine. Archbishop Naumann also said he believes a Catholic can, in good conscience, both protest the use of aborted cells in vaccine development and still receive that vaccine if that's what they ultimately discern to do. But Tracy, the point that stood out to me the most was when I asked Archbishop Naumann, are Catholics morally obligated to receive a COVID-19 vaccine? And here's what he told me.
No, you're not morally obligated. You know, what we say in the document is that it's permissible. And if you do choose, then the choice should be made because you're trying actually to do an act of charity to protect the health of others. And there is a moral obligation to work for the common good.
So, Tracy, again, that was a really important point that Archbishop Naumann reiterated throughout our interview, that no, Catholics are not morally obligated to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, but if they ultimately discern and decide to do so, part of their reasoning should be for the common good and for the well-being and safety of others.
Well, Catherine, we have about maybe 90 seconds left, but I do want to ask you this. For those of us who are concerned about aborted fetal cell lines being used in vaccine development, what are our options and what can we do as Catholics?
Thanks for asking this because we as Catholics do protest every single abortion, past or present, and we do protest the use of aborted fetal cells in vaccine development. So we created a call to action. Viewers can go to prolifeweekly.com and sign our petition to vaccine developers that they should never use aborted fetal cells at any stage in development. Again, viewers can go to prolifeweekly.com. Let's make sure our Catholic voice is heard loudly and clearly.
And Catherine, if folks would like to see your interview with Archbishop Naumann in its entirety, how can they do that?
Yes, the best way is to go to EWTN's YouTube page. You'll see it there in the EWTN Pro-Life Weekly playlist. And the complete transcript is also available at the National Catholic Register at ncregister.com.
Okay, great. Thank you, Catherine, so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tracy.